Bermuda may be known for its pink sand beaches and folks zipping around on scooters. But deep beneath the surface of the Atlantic lives a voracious predator who gobbles down more than its fair share of food. It's not a shark, though. It's not even a squid. It's an invasive species called the lionfish that's eating its way across Bermuda's reefs.
An invasive species is a species that's been injected into a habitat or to an environment that is not usually from. They tend to do a lot better and outcompete the native and the endemic species that are supposed to be there. The Pacific lionfish is a classic example of an introduced invasive species. In the Pacific, where it's native, it's supposed to be there, it's found its balance. Now that it's in the Atlantic, it's showing the invasive qualities and the fact that it's outcompeting and pushing the other native and endemics out.
A study in the Bahamas revealed that a single lionfish can reduce the juvenile fish stock on a reef by 80% in just 5 weeks. Considering Bermuda's reefs generate more than $700 million annually, according to a recent environmental department study, protection of the island's marine ecosystem is vital.
Lionfish ended up in the Atlantic and the Caribbean waters basically by human error. It's pretty much the pet trade. If you think about 700,000 lionfish are imported every year to the US, all it takes is little Billy's too big for his fish tank. We'll put him overboard. It's only one fish, no big deal. That happens once or twice and bang, you got a breeding population. I think lionfish have done really well in the Caribbean and Atlantic so far because they don't have any natural predators here. The small feed fish that they're feeding on, the prey items, they just don't see lionfish as a threat. Somewhere like the Bahamas, where it's warm the entire time, it's prime breeding habitat for these lionfish. So not only are they getting bigger in the Atlantic because of no competition and plenty of food for them to get, they're also producing a lot more eggs. So some of the work that's come out of Bahamas is they reckon some of these fish down there are producing 30,000 eggs every 4 days. That is staggering when you think that they're consuming everything off the reef and just populating at that sort of speed. The population of lionfish has done this, and the population of other things is starting to do this.
I've been diving here in Bermuda about 24 years now. One of the things I've noticed over the last 6 or 7 years is the incredible increase of the number of lionfish that we are seeing. Because these lionfish eat everything. They're not species specific in what they eat. They eat crab, shrimp, herbivores. A herbivore is the small parrotfish that keeps the reef alive. When you take those herbivores out of the ocean or out of the food chain, then the reef begins to die, what they call trophic cascade, where the reef begins to die off.
Coral reef ecosystems are among the most biologically diverse of all ecosystems on the planet. If one component of that ecosystem becomes out of whack, it will affect all other components of the ecosystem. The lionfish is a great example of this. Lionfish generally eat small herbivorous fish, but they eat them in huge abundances. Lionfish are consuming a huge component of this one particular level. And so you end up with this cascade of effects where you've really only reduced the number of tiny fish, but through all of these interactions, you have ended up reducing overall diversity and overall abundance of all fish. The coral reef is critical to Bermuda. We wouldn't even be here if it weren't for a coral reef. It helps protect the island from major storm damage, but it also provides a major component of our economy in terms of tourism and in terms of fishing.
We started Ocean Support Foundation as a direct result of the invasion of the lionfish into our local waters here. We thought we would form a non-for-profit charity to help get financial support so we could go out and begin to research the significance of what the invasion is going to be in Bermuda. And we thought this would be a great opportunity to help educate people on environmental issues in the ocean, and a group of people that can help support efforts to try and combat these issues.
It's really important to create this lionfish control plan in Bermuda because we need set goals, set objectives. We need to figure out what we're after and how to get it. Some of the key aspects of the Bermuda Lionfish Control Plan include education, outreach, research, and then the actual control itself, the activities involved. We're really putting a lot of effort into making this subject well known across the island. We want it on everybody's lips. Then we're getting into the research because you need to know your enemy before you can attack that enemy. So we want to know, first of all, a lot about their population and their demographics, specifically how many fish and where we're going to find them.
The main population of our lionfish is at 200 feet. Now, as a technical diver, we can go down there and look at that and study them, but we're very limited in the bottom time that we can spend down there, so the science is tricky.
We're putting a lot of effort into developing a lionfish-specific trap, and also we've just developed the Bermuda Lionfish Culling Program, which actually allows any resident Bermudian over 16 years of age to take a permit, take a spear, go out and catch their lionfish themselves. The first line defense of Bermuda is these permit holders.
Absent natural predators, teams from the Ocean Support Foundation and the Bermuda Institute of Ocean Sciences dive for lionfish to capture and kill what they can. And while they've concluded they'll never get rid of the fish in these waters, they have decided the best way to win. Eat 'em to beat 'em.
Eat 'em to beat 'em is, to me, is the best solution to dealing with this problem. This concept takes them from the reef, prevents them from reproducing further, prevents them from eating the juveniles, and on a positive note, they're safe and delicious to eat. We developed this tournament for two reasons. One was to actually do a culling event, get out there one day a year where everyone can go out and focus on killing these fish on the reef itself. And the other important reason for it was to create almost a PR campaign. A lot of people aren't going to be able to go out and spear them themselves, so this is a great opportunity for just the general public. Joe Blow can come see how to safely handle these lionfish, see how to fillet them, how to cook them, and actually eat them. So they see it from catching all the way to consuming.
The lionfish itself is a venomous fish. It is not a poisonous fish like the great pufferfish. Once you cook the meat, once you apply the heat, anything that may have come into contact with the actual venom is neutralized. Lionfish is probably one of the nicest fishes you're gonna have. It's delicious, the meat is very sweet, white meat, nice flavor. It's a versatile fish, you can do anything. We've taken the racks and used the byproduct of the fillet in chowder, simple sort of finger food, bar snack, where you just crust it in a bit of coconut. The sweet meat lends itself good to the coconut. You can even take it sashimi style with a bit of soy sauce, wasabi, and straight down the hatch you go, you know?
Delicious as they may be, lionfish are unfortunately here to stay.
So how far will they spread? Today, lionfish have successfully invaded most of the Caribbean, parts of the Gulf of Mexico, and the waters right here in Bermuda. They've spread up the eastern coast of the United States as far north as Rhode Island, and are now being found as far south as Venezuela. For Dispatches, I'm David LaHuta.